So we use QuickBooks, an off-the-shelf software, which
Okay.
is relatively cheaply priced for nonprofits. It gives us the opportunity to track every deposit, every check and expenditure, every electronic transfer through ACH
Okay.
as well. So we spend funds on a variety of aspects. Our staff, like most nonprofits, staffing and benefits are our largest expenditure.
Very
I'm sure
important.
you'd learned that in your class. And then we have our budget line items by program area, by cost center, like supplies, since we own 2 buildings, and we have utilities. So we use what I like to refer to in my graduate class as trend analysis.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've learned about that as well. We like to take about a 5-year trend outlook.
Okay.
With the asterisk that goes next to something that looks very lumpy, right? Why is there a spike in something? And we also look at trends in the external environment.
Okay.
So we're kind of forward thinking. Our board is very much we're on a calendar year. Our preliminary budget for next year will be developed by this May.
Wow. Okay.
It'll go to the executive committee between May's board meeting and the September full board meeting.
Okay.
It gets approved by them as a preliminary budget. Goes to the full board in September.
Yeah.
And then it's approved. It's still preliminary.
Okay.
Because we may see changes from September to December.
You need to modify.
And
Yeah.
then we modify and they approve it.
How do you monitor your budget trends? You kind of covered that a little bit.
Yeah, and those reports are every month. And the
month.
cool thing about QuickBooks is you can do comparative reporting anytime you want. The money comes from a variety of sources. In this case, for instance, United Way funding is transferred electronically. Our annual fund drive, where people make donations to us, we're tracking that on what's called Little Green Light, which is a cloud-based system. So we're entering all of our donations there. We enter all of our major grants there. We have our operating account. So that's money in, money out for the year. So we're not investing any of that because that's money that's going to be used.
Yeah.
Then we have our restricted account, which is money that either the donor or we have temporarily restricted that may or may not come to operations this year. But we have an endowment fund and we have an operating reserve fund. If we had an HVAC for the heating and ventilation of the building, we might put out a bid, request those bids back and it's sealed, open them all while we're together.
Perfect.
We advertise those bids and proposals. Now, if we get government money, we have to follow the government source. If we're not getting government money, we're not bothering to advertise. And then the risk management committee will be responsible to evaluate the bids, not just taking the lowest bid, but the one that's the most responsible or the best fit. We use a lot of, these sort of steps for orders of goods and services. We do business with a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
Your printer knows your stuff, has templates, is giving you the best price. We might bid it out, then we find out we're getting the best price. If we're writing a contract, we have three of the 7 people on our risk management committee, 2 are practicing attorneys, 1 heads the college, and she has a JD.
Okay.
So we have contract experience on our board. We don't have any debt.
Okay.
And
Can I ask you why?
Yeah. Well, first, our building was developed in 1982 with federal funds. And since then, we've run capital campaigns to put into our building. When we bought a new building across the street, we ran $1 million capital campaign to expand. During this time, I mentioned we have an endowment, we have a reserve. And enables us, we don't even have a line of credit. And some people would say, well, why don't you have a line of credit? Well, why would we need a line of credit?
True, if you have that fund.
And plus, we're normally trending ahead on revenue. Yeah, so we have no real need for debt and or a line of credit. There are some things that we know have to be done every year or every other year. They're probably in our operating budget. So we have a dedicated line item for that. So the risk management committee has that, they have these lists in front of them at every meeting.
Yeah.
Here are the priorities. Here's what's coming up next. What's coming down the pipeline are these windows and 2 stairwells that the paint is effaced in the stairwell. You can't just like spackle it and paint it. It's going to need redone. It's probably $30,000. The window jacking $60,000. And the fact is, it's a low priority. I mean, it's been that way for 2 decades. Whereas you can't have your window fall out. They review that and evaluate that and prioritize our infrastructure and investment needs at their meetings, which are usually twice a year.